Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My name is Catherine. I'm 28 years old and I'm a single mother who has been divorced for 2 years. Every morning at 6 o'clock, I get up on time to cook a bowl of noodles with poached eggs for my 5-year-old son. The noodles are cooked until soft, the egg is intact, and the broth is light. This is the taste he likes. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I certainly won't gamble a single penny. My only hobby is sitting on the balcony for 5 minutes every day after the kids fall asleep, watching the night sky gradually crumble under the lights of the tall buildings. I've raised my son single-handedly and dragged this mess through life. Until now, no one wipes away my tears. No one holds an umbrella for me. But I've always known I can't fall because if I fall, we'll truly have no home anymore. Mommy, the teacher said today that Daddy should come to the parent-teacher conference. I put down my chopsticks and looked at my son's serious little face, with food stuck in my throat as if something was blocking it. Then I said, Daddy's away on a business trip to a very far place, as gently as possible, patting his hair and smiling broadly. Next time he comes back, we'll go together, okay? He nodded, his eyes dimmed slightly, and he lowered his head to continue eating without saying another word. This topic would never be brought up again in my house. At 7:20 in the morning, I let him out of the old neighborhood. As we walked through the alley, a stray cat darted past our feet. I was so startled that I instinctively picked him up, but he wasn't afraid. He reached out and smiled at the cat, asking, Mommy, can we have a cat? I didn't say anything. I just gently put him back on the ground. I can't even manage my own life. How could I have the energy to take care of a cat? The kindergarten is on the west side of the neighborhood, a 20-minute walk away. Every time I take him there, I have to spend another half hour taking the subway, and then 2 buses to get to the dessert shop behind the mall for my half-day job. I get off work around 2 p.m., rush home to prepare dinner, and then work part-time editing short videos to earn some extra money. People say divorced women fear loneliness the most. I just smiled. People like us don't have the right to be lonely. I had just dropped my child off at the classroom when a black Audi blocked the entrance to the kindergarten. The window rolled down and a familiar yet unfamiliar face appeared. Catherine. I instinctively took a step back. It was him, Derek, my ex-husband. My former legal husband, now someone whose name I no longer want to utter. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice barely audible. You're not answering the phone or replying to messages. You're not signing the mediation documents from the court either. What exactly do you mean by this? He frowned as if he was very annoyed by my dragging my feet. What do you mean? You know it yourself. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms without feeling any pain. You haven't come to see the child for 2 years and now you suddenly want to change custody? Isn't that ridiculous? He scoffed. My girlfriend is pregnant. I can't let her raise someone else's child. My mind went blank for a moment. My throat felt like it was stuffed with cotton. It took me a long time to manage to utter a single laborious sentence. What did you say? She's pregnant, he repeated, his gaze looking down at her. I'll give you a sum of money and won't hold you responsible for concealing the child's parentage. Give the child to me so you won't hold him back. I felt a throbbing pain in my temples, and the street in front of me seemed to be shaking. Derek, don't you have any conscience at all? If I had any conscience, I wouldn't have married you. After saying this, he slowly rolled up the car window and drove away. I watched his departing figure, my chest aching with tightness. He is the child's father, but from the moment the child was born, he has never fulfilled his responsibilities for a single day. And now he wants to take my son away simply because he doesn't want his new life to be disturbed by old things. I don't know how I got home. There were many people and cars on the way, but it felt like there was a plastic film covering my ears, and I couldn't hear a sound. My phone rang. It was an email from the court, a formal notice of case acceptance. I opened it and sat on the sofa, staring at the document until my vision blurred and the words seemed to jump out of my head. I didn't want to cry, but tears still streamed down my face. The living room was quiet. I could hear a child practicing the piano upstairs. It was the little girl next door. She practiced the piano for 2 hours every day after school. Her playing was always clear and steady, unlike the chaotic sounds in my life. I closed my eyes and listened for a while. Then I got up and went to the balcony. The wind tousled my hair, and the dried tears on my face left streaks. I raised my hand, opened WeChat and scrolled to the bottom of my contacts. A name I hadn't contacted in 2 years. Yelena, sis, I want to start working again. The other end quickly replied, you finally thought it through. I happen to have an internship opening. Want to come? I took a deep breath and typed, I'm in. The sky was overcast, and sunlight filtered through the gaps between the buildings, falling on my face. The city was still bustling, but somewhere inside me, a sudden calm settled in. Not because life had improved, but because I had finally made up my mind. This time I will not back down. I am not proving anything for anyone, but only for myself and for the child who hugs me and calls me mommy every morning. He is my only weakness and also my strongest armor. I don't know how difficult the days ahead will be, but I know that as long as I stand, he will always have a home to return to. I sat in the corner of the subway car, clutching my resume and file folder in both hands, my knuckles white from the cold. The subway was packed during rush hour. Everyone. A young woman next to me was scrolling through her phone when she came across a short parenting video. The child was giggling and learning to walk, with the mother's happy laughter playing in the background. I lowered my head and didn't dare watch for too long. When the platform announcement came on, I hadn't slept a wink all night. I barely slept at all last night, preparing my resume while also wiping my son Alan's body, who had a low-grade fever. His fever subsided at 3 o'clock in the morning, and only then did I tiptoe to the balcony to look through the company address and job information Yelena had sent me. It's a startup company that focuses on parenting brands, specializing in maternal and infant content in physical experience centers. Their office is located in the West Hangzhou High-Tech Industrial Park, about an hour and a half's drive from my home. The position was content operations intern with a low salary and a 1-month probation period. Yelena said that if I performed well, there was a chance to become a full-time employee. But it was difficult because she wasn't the boss and couldn't make the final decision. But I still decided to go. I had no other choice. The company is located on the 21st floor of an office building. The reception area is clean and tidy, decorated in a minimalist Scandinavian style. 2 young women are sitting in the waiting area. One is flipping through documents while the other, with meticulously applied makeup, is adjusting her shirt cuffs. I glanced down at myself. My linen jacket was peeling a bit, and my shoes were the canvas shoes I'd gotten dirty while running with Alan. I felt a little guilty, but I knew there was nothing I could do. Catherine, hearing my name called, I stood up and walked into the meeting room. There were 3 interviewers. The one in the middle was a man in his 30s, wearing black-rimmed glasses and looking rather stern. He glanced at the resume I handed him and asked, "Have you done any content operations work before?" I nodded. I had 2 years of experience editing short parenting videos, and 6 months of experience editing articles for a public WeChat account. He glanced at me and said, "You stopped after the divorce?" I didn't back down. "Yes, because the child was too young and needed someone to take care of him." "Do you have childcare arrangements now?" "Yes, full-day kindergarten," I answered briefly. He looked at me but didn't say anything. A female interviewer next to me, however, smiled and interjected, "How do you usually balance family and work?" "I'll try my best to accommodate the company schedule," I said calmly. "During the internship, I can arrive before 8:30 every day, and overtime is no problem." She nodded and didn't say anything more. The interview ended quickly. As I left the office, I saw a girl who had already changed into her employee badge and was registering at the front desk. She was youthful and capable, with a confident smile, and she radiated light under the bright lights. I stepped into the elevator. I suddenly felt an urge to cry, but I held it back. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was a message from Yelena. "Come and try it out tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. Do a 3-day trial period and see how it goes." I didn't react for a moment until she sent another message. "This is a special opportunity approved by the boss. Don't embarrass me." I suddenly came to my senses. "Okay, thank you, sis," I replied, almost jumping up. There was a pause on the other end of the phone. Then she said, "You have children. I know it's not easy, but you have to prove yourself." "I will." At that moment I felt that even if the world didn't believe in me, As long as they gave me a tiny crack, I could grit my teeth and make a way out. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Alan sat on the sofa after dinner, doodling in a booklet given to him by the kindergarten while I was washing the dishes. I heard him reciting a line from a textbook. "Mom is my superhero." Something suddenly struck me. "Alan." I walked over and squatted down in front of him. "Mommy has to go to work tomorrow." He stopped writing and looked at me, his eyes fixed on me. "Then will I go to kindergarten by myself?" "Yes," I patted his hair. "But your teacher will take care of you, and your mom will pick you up as soon as she gets off work, okay?" He nodded but then asked, "But you won't get bullied anymore, right?" I didn't hear him clearly. What the teacher said was that children who have their fathers with them won't be bullied. He lowered his head and continued doodling. "But I don't have one." I froze on the spot. In that instant, all my emotions surged up like a burst dam. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him that mommy is amazing, that mommy can protect him. But I opened my mouth and nothing came out. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat by the bed watching his peaceful profile. The wind outside the window made the shadows of the trees sway. I gently held his little hand and whispered, "Mommy will try her best. No matter what happens in the future, I will never give you away. Never." My phone suddenly lit up. It was an unknown number. I tapped it. It was a voicemail. "Catherine, I've submitted the supplementary documents to the court. If all goes well, you should receive the second summons soon. It's Derek." I stared at the voicemail for a long time, motionless. The next morning before dawn I got up. I made Alan's breakfast, packed his school bag, folded his clothes one by one, and put them into the laundry bag. I wrote a note to the homeroom teacher explaining the situation. When he woke up, I was already dressed and sitting by the bed, holding his little hand and saying over and over, "Mommy's going to work. I'll be back soon." Alan hugged my neck and asked in his childish voice, "You look so pretty today. Are you going to fight bad guys?" I smiled, my eyes a little red. Not bad guys, but life itself. At 8 o'clock sharp in the morning, I stood at the office door, a canvas bag in one hand and my phone tightly in the other. The glass door wasn't even fully open yet, but the OM was already bustling with activity. Several employees were gathered around the projection screen discussing plans, and the background music was a refreshing piano melody. This scene was seemingly from a completely different world compared to last night, where I was packing Alan's clothes with tears in my eyes. "You're here quite early," a male voice sounded behind me. I turned around and saw a face that was both unfamiliar and familiar. It was the male manager who had sat in the middle during the interview. With no expression today, he wasn't wearing his glasses and was dressed in a white shirt with the cuffs slightly rolled up. He looked a few steps more refreshed than yesterday. "It's my first day of trial work and I'm afraid I'll be late," I replied politely. He nodded, pushed open the door and said, "Come with me. I'll take you to your department to report for duty." I jogged to catch up, silently observing my surroundings as I did so. Although the company is small, the atmosphere seems quite youthful. There are no partitions in the office, and everyone sits at open workstations. The walls are covered with this month's goals and motivational slogans. User experience first, and be a good friend to those in the maternal and infant industry. From now on, you'll be in the content team, mainly responsible for topic selection, script writing, and some editing for new media accounts, he spoke steadily. "My name is Felix, and I'm the head of the brand department. You can come to me directly if you have any questions." I nodded slightly. "Okay, Manager Felix." He glanced at me, said nothing, and led me straight to a seat by the window. "Take a look at the company's project materials first. The folder is on the shared drive. I'll send you the link." "Thank you." I opened my laptop and flipped through the PDFs and spreadsheets one by one, from the brand introduction to product line positioning, from user profiles to content distribution strategies. Every page was densely covered with annotations and data. I skimmed through it and found that the company's target users were people like me. New mothers under great pressure, raising children, experiencing frequent mood swings, and needing companionship. I suddenly realized why this position was offered to me, not just because Yelena helped, but also because I was a user myself. This gave me a glimmer of confidence. At 10:30 a.m., there was an impromptu meeting. Felix led our group of 4 in a topic planning meeting to discuss short video ideas for next week's Mother's Day. We want to do a day in the life of a mother theme, but how can we make it stand out from the crowd? Asked Vera, the deputy group leader. I hesitated for a moment, then said softly, we can cut from the angle of moments when no one is watching. For example, soothing a child late at night, eating alone, secretly shedding tears, and then turning it into the surprise of the child giving a small gift. That would be more emotionally compelling. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Felix glanced at me. That's a good idea. Write a short script draft and come present it tomorrow. I was stunned for a moment, then quickly nodded. Okay, I'll write it tonight. As we left the meeting room, Dara walked beside me, turned her head and asked, have you ever written scripts before? A little, I answered calmly. She didn't say anything more, just gave a cold laugh and walked away. I knew this wasn't a friendly laugh, but I also understood that the workplace is never kindergarten. Everyone is competing for resources, especially in a new company where everyone is afraid of being overshadowed. Before I left work at 5 p.m., Yelena messaged me, was your son well behaved today? I replied with a smiley face, very well behaved. Actually, Alan had a fever today. His teacher called at noon, and I took half an hour off to sneak out to the hospital to buy medicine and then take him back to kindergarten. The whole process felt like I was stealing time. When I got home that night, I put Alan to sleep and sat down at my small desk to type out my draft. My head was foggy, but when I thought of that nodding look in the meeting room earlier that day, I knew I had to keep going no matter how tough it got. Halfway through writing, a message popped up on my phone. It was a photo sent by Alan's homeroom teacher. In the photo, Alan was wearing his school uniform, standing in front of a small blackboard, writing the word mom stroke by stroke, crookedly but very seriously. The caption read, he said his mother is the most amazing person in the world, because she can do the work of 2 people while doing the work of 1. My eyes immediately welled up with tears as I read that. I couldn't tell him how tired his mother was, nor could I explain why some people are born with the option to quit while I have no choice but to keep moving forward. All I could do was let him see that no matter how difficult it was, his mother was striving to be a powerful person. At 1 in the morning, I finished writing the script, sent it to Felix's email, shut down my computer, and cuddled Alan to sleep. His little hands were on my neck, and he was still muttering something. I leaned closer to listen, and it was him talking in his sleep. Mommy, it's sunny today. You don't need an umbrella. The next morning, right after the company's routine meeting, Felix called me into the conference room. He spread out a printed script and said, change the ending of this part. Don't make it too tragic. Our brand's tone is more positive. I nodded, a sense of confidence rising within me. He hadn't dismissed everything, just offered guidance. When I returned to my workstation, Dara glanced at me and smiled, saying, looks like you can really stay up all night. I smiled back but didn't reply. On my computer screen, I titled the new document, 10,000 Mothers at 2 a.m. Bringing Smiles to the Day. I knew I was just getting started. I stood at the entrance of the company's activity room, looking at the pink curtain decorated as a Mother's Day themed backdrop, feeling somewhat unreal. Just 3 days ago, I was sitting at home frantically trying to manage my child's fever, and now I had to represent the content team, personally standing up to present the short video script I had written to the brand. Dara sat next to me, her makeup impeccable, flipping through a notebook as if she were memorizing something. I didn't look at her. I just gripped the printed document tightly, trying to calm my breathing. Felix walked over and stood beside me. We'll start in 5 minutes. Don't be nervous, just read what you wrote, explaining why you designed it this way and why you ended it this way. I looked up at him and nodded. Okay. He didn't say much but went to the front to adjust the projector. I suddenly realized that he was the only one who hadn't said a word of encouragement in these 3 days, but his arrangements and feedback were never careless, and he never made anyone feel ignored. I felt inexplicably at ease as the presentation began. I stood on the stage, the backdrop behind me displaying the message to every mother who is still awake at 2 a.m. I started by explaining the initial logic behind choosing the topic, then moved on to the camera work, and finally to how the ending twist created an emotional release. Several representatives from the brand nodded repeatedly, and one of the female executives said, "You must be a mother, right? I can feel the real life in your writing." I smiled gently, My son is 5 years old. Every day he asks me, "Mom, are you tired today?" So I wanted to take a picture to show him what mom looks like outside. In just 10 minutes, not a single person in the audience was on their phone. I knew they were listening. This presentation was the first time I received positive recognition from the team, and it also earned me additional tasks from the content manager. Near the end of the workday, Felix came over and placed a piece of paper on my desk. "This is your trial task plan for the next month. You will complete 4 scripts, follow up on the shooting of 2 short videos, and have 1 opportunity to initiate a topic within 3 weeks." I looked at the schedule, my heart racing slightly. "I can do all this by myself?" I asked uncertainly. "If you can, you'll get a permanent position," he said, turning and leaving. His words sounded both encouraging and challenging. It was already dark when I got home from work, and the subway was less crowded. I leaned against the window, my mind filled with the details of the script. Alan was picked up by our neighbor today, and I especially bought him a bag of his favorite strawberry yogurt at the neighborhood supermarket. Light shone through the crack in the door. I opened it and Alan was sitting on a small stool, eating bread and watching cartoons. Seeing me come in, he jumped up and ran over. "Mommy!" I hugged him tightly, my exhaustion instantly washed away by his shout. "Were you a good boy today?" I asked. He nodded and led me to the sofa. "Mommy, look. I drew a gift box today." I took the drawing paper he handed me. It was a box drawn with color, full pens, and in the middle, in crooked handwriting, it read, "For the hardest working mother." I hugged him and my nose tingled with emotion. "Do you like this gift?" he asked. "Yes, Mom likes it the most." He leaned against me, his voice growing softer. "Mom, actually I wanted to buy you a gift too, but I didn't have any money. You are Mom's best gift." I kissed his forehead. He suddenly sat up again and whispered, "Mom, today a little kid said I'm not Dad's child." I was stunned. I froze. "Who said that?" I tried to keep my voice gentle, but my fingers were already gripping his little arm tightly. "That George in our class. He said he heard it from his mother." Alan lowered his head, not daring to look at me. My heart felt like it had been pricked by a needle. For so many years, I had avoided this question, carefully preventing him from touching on the truth about Dad. But in the end, it still reached his ears. "Remember this," I said, taking his hand. "You were born of your mother, raised by your mother. It has nothing to do with what others say." "Okay." He didn't answer but just nodded slightly. In the dead of night, I opened my laptop, intending to reorganize the storyline of the short video, but found that I couldn't concentrate. I recalled the day I gave birth. Derek stood at the door of the ward, looking at me lying weakly on the bed, and only said one thing: "You better be sure this child is mine." From that day on, I knew that some people would never consider family as a responsibility. I have considered telling Alan who his real biological father is, but I can't. I can't explain how I endured the pain while gritting my teeth and sparing his life. There's no way to make a 5-year-old understand that not every answer to the adult world is written in a textbook. But I know clearly that I can't back down anymore. The next day at work, a crowd gathered downstairs at the company. A notice was posted at the entrance stating that the company was about to undergo a restructuring, with the content department being merged into the marketing department, resulting in fewer positions and staff optimization. The list of those affected would be published within 3 days. I stood at the back of the crowd, listening to the murmurs. Are they going to lay off people? Will anyone in our group be affected? That new intern's job is probably in jeopardy. I lowered my head and didn't say anything, silently clutching the promotion plan in my bag. If I can't stay, all my efforts will be wiped out by a single list, and I won't have the time to start over. In the hallway, Felix and several senior executives entered the elevator. As I passed by, he whispered to me, "Get ready. The topic selection meeting you requested has been moved up to 3 p.m. this afternoon." I stood in front of the elevator, my fingertips slightly cool. This topic selection meeting wasn't just about a script proposal. It was my only chance to stay in this position. I looked up towards the meeting room at the end of the corridor, my pace quickening. I had to win for myself, and for the child who wrote to the hardest working mother on the drawing paper at exactly 3 o'clock. The conference room door was pushed open. As I walked in, it felt like I was stepping on a layer of transparent ice. Cold and painful, slippery and unsettling. The room was brightly lit, and the air was heavy with quiet. Sitting at the other end of the long table were Felix and 3 managers from the marketing department. Several printed documents were neatly arranged on the table, one of which was titled Content Section Integration Proposal Review. I bowed slightly, my voice low but steady. I'm Catherine, and I'm in charge of the theme proposal for this content direction today. They didn't respond. Their gazes simply fixed on me calmly. I knew they were waiting for me to make a mistake, waiting for me to panic. I forced myself to breathe steadily, opened the PowerPoint presentation, and clicked on the first slide. The topic I wanted to share was imperfect mothers also deserve a good outcome. I stopped looking at the screen and just stared at them. I am a single mother. I know there are countless tender and glamorous parenting stories on the internet, but in reality, the vast majority of mothers are on the verge of collapse while trying to hold on every day. I presented preliminary research data and cited several recent popular articles as examples, describing the high-frequency emotional words of mothers of different ages: breakdown, guilt, self-blame, loneliness. Our brand advocates companionship and authenticity, so we shouldn't just show off holiday flowers and gifts, but also talk about those efforts that go unappreciated. Felix sat in the center, expressionless. The vice president of marketing frowned in confusion. Your direction has a rather negative tone. Won't that affect users' emotions? I looked at him and said, we're not amplifying negative emotions, but giving these people a window so they can see that they're not the only ones shedding tears in the middle of the night. Another female supervisor flipped through the script and asked, what's the special meaning behind your ending that says the child gave his mother a pair of shoes? I replied, the child said those shoes were shoes that wouldn't make you tired. There are no such shoes in reality, but love is. No matter how hard mom works, as long as someone remembers how hard she tries, she can keep going. Felix finally looked up and glanced at me. Are you sure you can complete the filming within 3 days? I nodded. Yes. What's the budget? Keep it under 10,000. I have filming resources and can contact independent directors and locations. Okay, he closed the file. Project approved. The meeting ended and I stood at the door, almost spitting out a breath. My palms were sweaty and my back was soaked. I knew I had won my gamble, but this was just the calm before a much bigger storm. As soon as I got back to my workstation, a missed call popped up on my phone. It was from the kindergarten teacher. I immediately called back and she sounded anxious. Miss Catherine, Ellen was emotionally unstable today. He suddenly had an outburst before nap time, kicked over his water cup, and said he didn't want to come to kindergarten anymore. We're already trying to calm him down, but we suggest you come over as soon as possible. I froze for a second, then grabbed my bag and rushed out of the office. When I arrived at the kindergarten, Alan was sitting in the corner of the classroom, clutching his sketchbook, his eyes red-rimmed, looking like a lonely little animal. The teacher said softly, this afternoon he hid in the bathroom and cried for a long time. When we asked him what was wrong, he only said, I'm not Daddy's child. I knelt down in front of him, reached out and hugged him, saying, I'm sorry Mommy is late. Alan didn't cry, but he said, they all say I'm not your biological child. Does that mean I'm not yours? I hugged him tightly, my voice choked with emotion. You were born from Mommy. You came from Mommy's tummy. You're Mommy's most beloved child. He finally broke down in tears, wiping them away as he said, I don't want to be without a father, but I also don't want people to talk about me. At that moment I felt all my resolve crumble. I always thought that as long as I was strong enough he wouldn't get hurt, but I was wrong. My silence caused him pain that shouldn't belong to a child. I brought him home, bought his favorite yogurt and strawberry cake, gave him a bath that evening, and told him 2 stories to soothe him. When he finally fell asleep, I sat by the bed, looking at the tear stains still on his eyes, and asked myself over and over again, are you really ready? Are you really capable of protecting him and shielding him from all the storms of the outside world? At midnight my phone rang. It was a second summons text message from the court. I opened it and stared at the cold, hard text. Please attend the hearing on the change of custody of your minor children at 9 a.m. next Wednesday. At that moment I suddenly felt like I was really about to break. The application for permanent employment, the script shooting Alan's emotions, my ex-husband's relentless pressure. All the pressure piled up together like an invisible giant wall, making it hard for me to breathe. I crouched in the corner of the balcony, curled up and hugging my knees, tears streaming down my face. For the past year I've tried so hard to escape the past and climb upwards, but in the end reality has dragged me back to square one. I'm not afraid of hardship, fatigue, or being misunderstood, but what I fear is that all my efforts will ultimately be in vain. My phone rang again. It was a message from the project. The filming start date has been moved up to the day after tomorrow. Can you handle it? I stared at those words, my fingertips trembling. It was like a question posed by some kind of fate. I slowly typed out a yes. Filming won't be delayed, and I'll attend the hearing even if my feet are freezing. I'll grit my teeth and stand firm. I want more than just a job, more than just custody. I want a complete victory. Even if I get nothing in return, I want everyone to see that I'm not running away. I'm fighting at 6 in the morning. Just as dawn was breaking, the city's outline was emerging from the gray haze. I carefully folded Alan's clothes and packed them into his little backpack, then packed an egg sandwich into his lunchbox. He was going to preschool with our neighbor today, so I had to leave early to get to the filming location to prepare. I put on a light-colored trench coat and glanced at myself in the mirror a few times. My makeup was very light, but I tried my best to cover the fatigue under my eyes. I only slept for 3 hours last night, but I felt unusually awake. The shooting schedule on my phone has been updated. The scene, props, and actors are all confirmed to be in place, and the director is already there waiting. I must seize this opportunity. Even if there's a cliff beneath my feet, I cannot back down. As I was leaving the residential area, Felix called. I'm already on site. The filming studio is fine, but there's been a bit of a mishap with the temporary venue coordination. The property management suddenly changed their mind and isn't willing to open the public areas. I'll handle it, I said calmly, my mind already racing with backup plans. Can you manage this by yourself? Yes. I hung up the phone immediately. I pulled up the site registration I had done before, found the scene of the community garden next to the kindergarten, and called to coordinate the application. During this time I made 7 phone calls. I reapplied for registration, signed a supplementary contract, and asked a friend to bring equipment to test the shooting angles. By the time I arrived at the scene, my back was soaked with sweat. The director saw me and nodded. The outdoor set was changed at the last minute, but it's not bad. The lighting is better than over there, and the emotional atmosphere is more intense. I breathed a sigh of relief and stood on the set, watching the actors rehearse in the scene. The actor playing the mother is wearing an old apron, holding her child on the sofa. The child gently leans against her and says, "Mom, I bought you a pair of shoes that won't make you tired." At that moment my eyes suddenly welled up with tears. This wasn't a movie scene. This was my everyday life, something I'd imagined 100 times but could never experience. If one day I could receive a gift like Alan's, even if it's just a dream, I'd gladly believe it for a lifetime. Filming went more smoothly than expected. We only took a 20-minute break throughout the entire day. All the shots were completed in one take with almost no retakes. By the time we wrapped, it was already dark. Outside the studio, the lights shone on the street, everything quiet and clear. I leaned against the door, catching my breath. Felix came over and handed me a bottle of water. "Today went well," he said. "I know," I replied, looking at him, my tone softening. "You did very well, much better than I expected." I took the water bottle without saying a word, but my fingers clenched tightly, not because of praise, but because I could tell that his tone, for the first time, wasn't just that of a supervisor speaking businesslike to an intern. At that moment I realized that it wasn't that I lacked recognition. It was just that no one had wanted to see me stand up. "Before the trial starts next Wednesday, I'll be there on time," I said. Felix nodded and asked in a low voice, "Are you ready?" I shook my head. "Nobody's ever truly ready, but I'll go." He didn't ask any more questions but just glanced at me. I couldn't understand that glance. Was it comfort, encouragement, or just a habitual farewell? When I got home, Alan was already asleep. His little face was pressed against the pillow, and there was still a little jam on the corner of his mouth. I sat on the edge of the bed and gently held his little hand. He frowned, then rolled over and snuggled closer to me. "Mom," he said in his dream, I'm not like what people say, am I? I whispered back. No, you are Mom's best child. Before dawn, I packed up the documents I needed for the court appearance, prepared my testimony, and even found an old photo. It was taken on the 4th day after Alan was born. I was holding him and standing at the door of the delivery room. My hair was still messy and my face was pale, but I was smiling as if I had just won a world war. At that moment, I was no longer that abandoned woman, not a probationary employee in the workplace, not someone's unstable element. I was a mother. On the morning of the court hearing, I wore a dark gray suit dress, concealing all my emotions. Outside the courtroom, I saw Derek. He was wearing a black suit, expressionless, as if he were there to discuss a business transaction, devoid of emotion. He glanced at me, his tone still cold. You have one last chance. If you give up custody now, I can give you 300,000 yuan as hush money. I stared at him, not looking away. 300,000 yuan for my son? He chuckled softly. You think the judge will side with you? You're a single mother with no stable job and a history of mental health issues. I didn't answer but simply took a new document from my bag and handed it to my lawyer. Those were my work records from this period, along with a letter of recommendation from Felix. He didn't sign his position, only writing. She stood firm during our most chaotic time. Derek hadn't expected me to prepare these. His expression changed slightly, but he still maintained his composure. When the trial began, Alan was not present. I only needed to face the judge, state my reasons, my living situation, and the future I could offer my child. I'm not the richest. I don't have the most resources, but I've been there for him through every night he had a fever, every time he cried from a toothache, every time he fell at kindergarten. I'm not the most perfect mother, but I'm the only mother he needs. I looked at the judge, my voice remarkably steady. Afterwards, I walked out of the courthouse. Light shining perfectly on the steps. I didn't look back, nor did I wait for the outcome. I simply lowered my head and walked into the alleyway at the side of the street. The wind blew from behind, making me feel as light as if a heavy shell had been removed. The phone rang. It was Alan. His voice was clear. Mom, did you beat up the bad guys? My eyes welled up with tears and I smiled as I said, I didn't beat up the bad guys, I just won. Once, he said on the other end of the line. Then can we go buy a pair of really comfortable shoes? I looked up at the sky. The sunlight was so warm it made me dizzy. Okay, we'll go buy them together after Mom gets her paycheck. It was still dark. The sky was overcast, and the whole city seemed to be wrapped in a damp blanket, unable to let in a single ray of clear light. Alan was curled up in my arms, sleeping soundly, his little hand pressed against the back of my hand, slightly sweaty. The rain was still falling outside the window, tapping softly on the glass, as if the chaos of the past few months had finally found an outlet and was being washed away little by little. 3 days after the hearing, the court officially issued its judgment. Derek's application to change custody was rejected. The original custody arrangement was upheld, and Alan's mother, Catherine, remained his direct guardian. When I received that document, my vision was almost completely blurred. I flipped through the pages one by one to confirm that there was no ambiguity in the text, confirming that I had truly won this battle that had dragged on for more than half a year. This was the first time in my life that I had stood on the opposite side of fate, not by begging, not by backing down, but by winning it all myself. The next day at work, the company was unusually lively. Felix announced that its Mother's Day special project had surpassed 3 million views on its first day, becoming the #1 female-themed project on the platform during the same period. As a result, the content department was officially merged into the marketing team, while the original core members were retained, and I was officially announced as a permanent employee. At the meeting, the moment the applause erupted, I heard a soft whisper in my heart. Finally that night, Dara came over and stopped me at the restroom door, scrolling through trending topics on her phone. Did you know that several mothers on YouTube have been sharing your scripts, saying they cried all night after watching them? I didn't say much, just smiled and replied, that's because they gave me the opportunity. You really got a permanent position. She seemed a little incredulous. Yeah, I know. I turned and walked away without looking back. On the subway home from work, I leaned against the window, watching the city lights flash by. As they receded, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from a short drama platform wanting to discuss the copyright licensing of your script and asking if you'd be willing to come forward and talk. I paused for a few seconds, then immediately replied with an, "Okay, I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I've opened a crack in my world. Even if it's just a glimmer of light, I won't let it close again." When I went to pick up Alan in the evening, his daycare teacher saw me at the door, patted me on the shoulder, and said he was very happy today and kept telling his classmates, "My mom won." I carried Alan out of the classroom. He hugged my neck tightly and whispered, "Mommy, you won't leave me, right?" "No, never," I replied. He nestled contentedly in my arms and closed his eyes. Back home, we ate dinner together. I cut up some strawberries and arranged them on his little plate. He ate very attentively, even imitating a TV presenter, saying, "Today is our victory celebration." I nodded, raised my glass, and said, "Cheers, little hero." He took a sip of milk, licked his lips, and asked me, "Mom, will you ever fall in love with someone else?" I froze, the cup in my hand hovering in midair. "If you don't want to, I won't," I said. "But if you're lonely, it's okay to go and love someone." He said, "I won't be jealous." I suddenly felt like laughing and also like crying. "Mom isn't living because she's lonely. She's living because of you. But I don't want you to be too tired," he said softly. "You can try to be a little happy." At that moment, a small part of my heart collapsed but was quickly filled with a soft feeling. Yes, I've been desperately trying to prove that I'm not weak, not a failure, that I'm a respectable mother, a woman who can hold up the sky on her own. But I forgot that I'm not just about responsibilities, I can also have a life. At 10 o'clock at night, I coaxed Alan to sleep. Looking at his sleeping face, I thought of every night since he was born. Fever, cough, fuss, crying, and countless moments when I gritted my teeth and persevered in the corner. Now I no longer need to run away, explain, or prove anything. He is my deepest wound and also my greatest pride in this life. Before going to bed, I came across a short video where someone narrated the ending of the script I wrote. She put on those never-tired shoes and continued walking in the deserted early morning and crowded dusk. The soles of the shoes were love, and the uppers were light. I made it. The video closed, I put down my phone and turned off the lights. In the darkness, moonlight shone through the gaps in the curtains, illuminating the painting on the wall. Alan's mom's house. Now it has windows, it has light, and it has us. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Alan, Mom, we have a home now."